This video will give you tools to see your players and value them as individuals. One way and one tool to see your players is simply to use their names. But have you ever thought about what you normally shout from the sideline when you want to praise or acknowledge a player? Often we just shout, "Well done, Sarah." This usually results in Sarah reacting first when she hears her name, right? So if Sarah only heard her name and not the positive praise that you shouted, the outcome will be that you interrupted Sarah while playing. And if she has lower self-esteem, it might even run the risk of Sarah thinking, "What did I do wrong?" because she never heard what you said in the first place. So if you want to give a player positive reinforcement from the sideline, make sure that you get her attention by saying her name first and then the thing you want to communicate. Sarah, well done. It is important to acknowledge the players for who they are as people and not only for how they perform. Pay attention to and get to know your players as people, as individuals, and not only as football players. Consider the strengths you see in them and tell your players which strengths you see based on who they are as a person. It can be that they are kind, considerate, stubborn, patient, creative, and so on. We are often limited in what words we associate or comment on when acknowledging other people, and which strengths we actually see. So one idea is to simply Google characteristics to grow your vocabulary and make it easier for you to be able to both see and express characteristics and strengths that you see in your players, and through this, acknowledge the players for who they are. However, it can also be hard to identify strengths in your players. You might have players who you find it really hard to deal with. At those times, it's important to remember that there are always reasons for a child's behavior and that children are always seeking approval. Everyone wants to be seen. The players can also have been building up a self-image of themselves as being noisy, troublesome, and so on, based on what they have been told by other people. And now they're simply trying to seek your approval by doing those very behaviors that they identify with. As leaders, we can make a big difference here by not acknowledging the players' destructive behaviors. For example, when they interrupt, don't respect you or other players, and make bad jokes about others and so on. Then help the player to act differently. I used to have a player who was always noisy and troublesome, and it was really hard to handle this player in the team. It would have been easy to just remove the player, which would have left me with more energy to focus on my other players. But since I believe that everyone has an inherent potential, I also saw that there was so much more to this player under the surface. I saw that she could become a leader in the team if her energy was focused on lifting the team up instead of bringing it down. So I started asking her to help me. I would ask her to help me tidy up after the training sessions, which she did. Not because she wanted to, but because I told her to. But then afterwards, I could say, "Thank you, you're so considerate to help me." So I simply forced different behaviors that made it possible for me to acknowledge her for different things than she was used to, and bring up strengths in her that she didn't see in herself. After a few weeks, she helped me out without me asking, and she also started to help other players during the training. Slowly but surely, her self-image changed, and she started seeing herself as a helpful person. So if you're struggling to identify strengths, characteristics, or behaviors in a player, you just have to work a little harder to help the player bring out strengths that you can acknowledge.